Good morning, everyone. I'll be speaking about supporting DRR investment decision making. My name is Junko Mochizuki from the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. And hopefully this is a topic that would be very interesting to many of the listeners, because this is where we actually try to use the risk information you have estimated and try to link that to decision making. So there are a number of tools that would support, and this is the topic of this morning. So let's see if I could go. Yeah. So there is an ample evidence around the globe that ex-ante disaster risk reduction yields more benefit than their cost in general. We often say for every dollar spent in DRR, we save about $4 to $5. Now, while that is the case, it has still been very difficult to motivate such investment, and there is a need to involve a stakeholder in evaluation of these investment decisions. So there are a number of analytical tools that will help in such process. So this guideline covers some of the commonly used methods for evaluating DRR policy scenarios. And some of the tools are cost-benefit analysis, cost-effectiveness analysis, multi-criteria analysis, and robust decision-making approaches, just to name a few. Now, these are not the only tools available. These are some of the commonly used tools. And given the time constraints, this morning I'll be talking about tool methods. One, cost-benefit analysis, and second, multi-criteria analysis, giving just general concept as well as a recent case application. So to start with cost-benefit analysis, whilst many of you may know, this is a structured approach to monetize a series of costs and benefits associated with particular investment decisions. For example, with a disaster risk reduction, we may have a number of benefits, as you can see in this graph: losses or damages avoided, such as asset losses avoided, human losses avoided, as well as indirect losses or higher order impacts avoided. In addition, we may have co-benefits such as environmental betterment, better livelihood options, and so forth. And what we do is that we would estimate risk with and without particular disaster risk reduction investment options to quantify some of these benefits. And once we have monetized all the benefits and costs associated with a particular investment decisions, then we calculate different metrics such as benefit cost ratio and net present value, and to make an investment decision based on these matrices. And in general, we say the higher benefit cost ratio, usually more than 1, or the larger the net present value, then more preferable are investment projects. And these benefits can be estimated either deterministically or probabilistically based on the resources available and the capacity available in different regions. And the recent example of cost-benefit analysis example is the case of Indian Ocean Commission countries, where the UNISDR, in collaboration with the Indian Ocean Commissions, have conducted capacity building on probabilistic cost and benefit analysis, using a recently collected information on hazard, exposure, vulnerability to cyclone risk in the country, using the CAPRA software. So we have estimated cyclone risk with and without local housing retrofit options to quantify the avoided direct losses as benefit. And the estimate shows that windproofing the wooden houses, for example, would yield a benefit cost ratio of 2.02 in Madagascar, whilst the number was 1.04 for refined masonry. Just to illustrate that risk information that you have collected could be, say, monetized and yield some of these type of indicators that allows you to make, say, investment decisions. Now, while cost and benefit analysis requires monetization of all benefits and costs, there are a number of aspects that are very hard to quantify. And in this case, there are another approach called multi-criteria analysis investment decision, incorporating some of the hard-to-quantify aspects. Now, in multi-criteria analysis, a decision maker or a group of stakeholder must first define what's called a decision criteria. This is where you see in the green. For example, stakeholder may think economic cost is important, environmental impact is important, fairness is important in evaluating disaster risk reduction investment options. Now, once we clarify this decision criteria, then we will evaluate each investment option, for example, raising a house on a plinth, sandbag, permeable surface, and so forth. We evaluate these investment options according to each of these criteria. This could be done by giving a direct sort of monetary value in the case of economic cost, or to give a range of, say, 1 to 10. And in order to do this, often we use, say, literature or technical analysis or expert judgment. Now, once we have scored each of these disaster risk reduction options, then we ask stakeholders regarding their preferences and say, would you feel economic cost is more important than environmental impact? How important are environmental impact versus fairness, so that we calculate a relative weighting of these criteria. So once we have these scores and the weightings calculated, then we can aggregate these into a weighted scores. Then we pick an investment option that has the highest weighted score as the most preferred option. To give a recent example of a multi-criteria analysis application, this is the case of Victoria, Australia, where following the 2009 bushfire, the Victorian government adopted a policy target for prescribed burning applied to 5% minimum of public land. But in the 2013, the Bushfires Royal Commission Implementation Monitor, this is a body that's monitoring the implementation of this policy, found that this prescribed burning target is not achievable, affordable, or sustainable. Therefore, it commissioned experts to conduct multi-criteria assessment to compare two investment options. One is an original hectare-based policy, so 5% minimum area in public land. The second is a risk-based prescribed burning, where a wildfire hazard model identified a particular area that would be most effective at reducing risk. So multi-criteria assessment was conducted across 12 criteria, such as effectiveness in terms of reducing risk to human life, infrastructure, economic activities and ecosystems, and stakeholder community engagement, policy sustainability, and distributional and equity considerations. And based on these 12 criteria, and these are scored and compared these two options, finally the multi-criteria assessment found that a risk-based policy was superior to the original hectare-based policy. Just to give you an idea that multi-criteria analysis is a little bit more flexible in taking into account these hard-to-quantify aspects such as community engagement and so forth. And as a general guidance, these tools, of course, will help you make decisions, but this should not dictate the decision per se. That this should be used as a larger part of this stakeholder discussions, where stakeholders would be involved in defining the problem to begin with, throughout the process where they would be called on to prioritize the investment options. And oftentimes, transparency and accountability is very, very important. So one could try to standardize some of the tools across the country or across different group of countries, or to conduct a third-party review to ensure that these are transparent and accountable. So these are some of the references and resources for people who are interested in learning more about these tools.